And Tommy and his daughter pull up in the car, and he's pointing the shotgun at the car, and then he sees it's his daughter, and he doesn't lower it. He keeps it pointed at her and says, "Get out of the car, Megan." No, father.
Maybe you're not taking your parenting seriously enough.
Maybe not.
Maybe that's how you should make your kids get out of the car every day.
Yeah.
Get out. Welcome in, everybody, to another horror movie review. Another special one, a Friday the 13th. We have a Friday the 13th in December. Some people said it couldn't be done, but here it is. It's happening in the most cheerful month of the year. Some say it's not. I think that it's the perfect time to mix it up a little bit with a Friday the 13th movie, a Friday the 13th day. And we don't have another one of these for a while, but let's get done with all this rambling. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob.
And Jesse Wilkins.
Hello. Yeah, we're covering the sixth one today, if we didn't mention that already. So
yes,
part 6.
Part 6. Jason lives. He's alive. Are you guys shocked that it wasn't done 15 movies ago? And we got to part 6 on this. So we were going to cover that one. Dave, do you have a synopsis for us on part 6?
I sure do. Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives, directed by Tom McLaughlin. Years ago, Tommy Jarvis killed infamous hockey masked murderer Jason Voorhees, and the intensity of the experience has landed him in a mental institution. To end his torment and achieve a level of closure, Tommy escapes from the hospital and heads to the graveyard where Jason is buried, intending to dig up the body and cremate it. But before this total annihilation can occur, a freak electrical accident resurrects Jason from the dead, and the terror begins anew. So 1986, this is obviously the 6th installment of the Friday the 13th series, and it follows a rather disappointing installment in number 5, in my opinion. And I thought this movie followed that movie up pretty well. It was kind of refreshing, kind of felt like an old school, well, they're all old school, but it felt like a more traditional Friday the 13th movie, brought it back to the basics. I mean, if you ignore the part where he was resurrected via electrical current, that's not really the basics, but they had to do it some way. But as this movie stands, I liked it pretty much beginning to end. There's a couple of minor things I didn't like here and there. You could make the argument that it was kind of cookie cutter, with the it's the same, it's kind of the same thing over and over again, but they got a little bit wacky with 3, 4, 5, but I thought they brought it back to the basics with this, and it was a pretty enjoyable slasher.
I thought they made some important changes to this one. For one, you have it's your traditional thing. You have a camp, and you have Jason going around killing people at the camp. But this is the first movie, if I'm not wrong, where they actually have kids at a camp.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is a point I was going to bring up too. So I'm glad you pointed it out.
You finally have kids. I feel like this movie kind of embraced finally that it's kind of goofy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they started off with kind of a ridiculous sequence where the lightning strikes, and maybe you don't use a metal pole in that situation. Maybe you should have used something else, but whatever, but you got right off the bat with the first kill when Jason punches this dude through the chest. I'm pretty sure he has his heart in his hand right through, which I thought he punched him a little low to get his heart, but that's, it is what it is. Maybe the organs are just floating around the body. You never know what's
swirling around in there.
So I like the first kill. It was quick. And then if you notice in the scene, he actually drops into the grave, which was kind of cool. And then you get this opening.
Can we talk about this whole opening scene? Because it is insanity. Like, the whole thing is insanity. Tommy Jarvis's whole plan is, you got to go see that Jason's dead. We can tell that it's going to be a crazy thunderstorm night. Why does it have to be this night?
Right.
Let's go do it when it's not downpouring and thundering and storming and lightning out.
Don't bring a metal pole in the lightning storm.
Yeah.
How about just go to the graveyard and see that he's still buried? And like, okay, he's still dead. Good.
No,
Also,
I mean, he has to see the body, Dave. He has to see the body.
According to the IMDb or the synopsis that you read, he was going to go cremate the body.
Right.
I wouldn't do that when it's downpouring.
Yeah.
Good
That's
point.
the other point. That's a great point, Jesse. It's pouring outside. It is pouring buckets of rain. It is thunderstorming. But as we will talk about later in this as well, Tommy Jarvis isn't the greatest with plan. He has some very bad plans throughout this entire movie that we're just going to keep talking about.
Water when it comes to fire, as we saw in the final scene of this movie.
It's a tradition. And this is the last of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy as well. This is, 4, 5, and 6 is Tommy Jarvis stuff.
That's right.
Played by different actors every single time.
I will say this before we dive too much into the flaws and into the plot of this movie. Off the bat, I thought this was the strongest one yet for a few reasons. Number one is they kind of patched up some things that were a little bit goofy. You have a camp with no kids. Now you have some kids in the movie. I thought it was an important addition. I thought the movie was actually directed pretty well. I thought the atmosphere is pretty well. I mean, like the way that these scenes were shot, I like that they kind of stopped taking themselves so seriously in this movie and they let it be a little bit goofy because that's what these movies are. And I thought that was really important for the way that this flowed. So now you're getting a faster paced movie with, I don't know, I wouldn't say more kills, but you're getting, it's just kill after kill. So I don't know what the body count in this movie is, but for the most part, the movie is just tension building up to kill. This is exactly what people wanted to see. You have a zombie version of Jason, which was pretty cool. I thought the opening scene was gross with all the maggots falling off his face and everything. By the way, we're going to spoil the movie. I don't know if we mentioned that, but this is like all of our reviews. If this is your first one, we spoil every movie that we review, but we can hop into it a little bit. But I thought overall, just the way that the movie was paced, I thought was better than every other Friday the 13th that we've seen. And I thought it was pulled together pretty well.
So this is one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies as well. I go back and forth with this one and a couple of the other earlier ones as like my true favorite. Again, I think the pacing on this is mostly great. I do like that they embrace some of the goofiness of it, but I thought there was actually really strong acting from certain characters in this movie versus other Friday the 13th movies. Negatives we're going to talk about is there's a couple things that they did in this movie that I just like. I think this entire part should have been cut out. So there's some give and take in this one, but I do think it is a stronger installment than most.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. One of the things that I enjoyed about this movie was every single cutscene kind of fed into the next cutscene, but in a comical kind of way, where you'd cut from, for instance, there was one scene where the old grave digger there, and he's drinking his whiskey, and he goes, "What do I look like to you, a fart head?" And then the cutscene just cuts to all the kids going, "Yes!" And the camp counselor going, "What are we gonna do? Or are we gonna roast marshmallows? Yes!" But like things like that. Or there's another scene where there was a kill where the girl's body got tossed out of a window and then yanked back in. It cuts right to the cops smashing a fly on the paper there, and almost every single cutscene worked like that, and I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Really good directing for a movie that probably was written in 14 minutes because of how fast they were pumping these things out at the end of the day. Which is a part. Go ahead, Dave.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Which is very apparent in certain scenes in this movie. Like one of the weaknesses is you can tell certain actors they were like, just talk, just say something, just say dialogue. Like when the kid's driving the RV, he was clearly not giving dialogue to say, and he was not good at improvising.
No.
And he was just saying like the same things over and over again. And you're just like, oh, they should have given him some dialogue here. He probably could have delivered it a little bit better. Not everyone can improv.
Just have him sing along with the song. Like why is he just yelling to, like, some of that should have been cut out. That was a flaw.
That was silly.
Yeah. But that was, small nitpicks in a Friday the 13th movie, right?
It is kind of crazy how they will just give so many different actors who are not great actors just free reign to make up their own
Improvise.
dialogue as they go
Yeah.
and improvise, right? You're not Jim Carrey, or you know what I mean? It's like if the kid's an actor, so give him a line, he'll act it. Don't make him write his own stuff. You're gonna end up with this shit.
Yeah. Use the term actor lightly. We can use this opportunity to talk about the advancement in laser pointer technology. I don't know if you guys know, but this was the laser pointer of a handgun for audio listeners. He is holding what looks like
A cannon.
it's a revolver. He has a revolver in his hand, and the laser pointer is bigger than the gun, mounted on top. Looks like an entire like maglite flashlight, like one of those big ones with a tiny little red dot. Which, by the way, at this range, if you need
it's point blank. You don't need the lasers.
You shouldn't need it at this range, but this was a ridiculous scene. I enjoyed it, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Are you serious? Like, this is how big they were?" I don't know.
I loved that character, Deputy Rick. I thought he was so bad. He was great. It was hilarious.
Yeah, which you're going to get characters like that on purpose in movies like this, and you got, I think, more of it in this movie in particular. And but I like it because like I said, they embrace the goofiness while keeping it tense and scary for most of the movie.
I actually like the sheriff a lot in this movie. I like the way he played it because I feel like a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, those actors would have played the role too over the top and hammy, but he played it really grounded. Like he was actually playing the part like a real person would act within the scenes with what the material he was given. So I enjoyed his performance because I'm like, oh, this feels like a real character. Do I agree with all his decisions? No, but at least I can kind of see what his thought process is, and he's not just like, these darn kids are doing stupid things and we're gonna stop them type of deal.
Right.
He was like a legitimate character.
Yeah, I also like just from a plot standpoint, I understand the idea of renaming the camp because of all the murders that have happened there in the past. But at what point do you stop using this camp? After the 5th string of murder, now we're on the 6th string of murders.
Spoiler alert: they don't stop using the camp.
Never stop using the camp. What finally got them to stop using the camp was everything's tied up in court right now about who owns the rights to Friday the 13th. So that's what's tied it up for the most part.
Before we move off the sheriff,
poor Jason's just sitting there like, come on, figure it out.
just in the courtroom.
Before we move off the sheriff there, I thought he was a pretty well-written character too. There was one scene that is a slight negative for me, and it's when they had the police blockade and he's standing there with a shotgun, and Tommy and his daughter pull up in the car, and he's pointing the shotgun at the car, and then he sees it's his daughter, and he doesn't lower it. He keeps it pointed at her and says, "Get out of the car, Megan." No father is going to do that.
Maybe you're not taking your parenting seriously enough.
Maybe not.
Maybe that's how you should make your kids get out of the car every day.
Yeah.
Get out.
Speaking of scenes that I was confused by, this is another one that I have. I will share it on screen. What is this sign? What does it mean? What do I do with
it? What is that?
For audio listeners, we have a speeding sign. It just says speeding with a question mark above and below. I would not know what to do with that sign. I would not know how to behave as a motor vehicle operator at that point.
I was watching and I saw that. I'm like, is that a sign that actually exists somewhere? Because I didn't know what the hell was going on either.
I mean, it's posed as a question. They'd be like, "No, I'm not
speeding. No,
definitely not. Wasn't. Was
should
not.
You be? Maybe you should. Who knows?
Yeah, like it's really.
There's a killer. There's a killer chasing you. Shouldn't you be speeding?
All right, let's talk about the worst part of this movie real quick. The part that they should have absolutely cut out, should not have been in this movie, I think was the biggest negative. See if you guys agree with me. It was clearly put in just to add some kills and maybe pad the runtime a little bit.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
The whole military airsoft game that they do is painfully bad.
Only thing I liked about that was that they had the headbands on that said dead, and once they put them on, that was sealing their fate.
Yeah, but like this was the quintessential Friday the 13th people overacting.
Yes.
And it was just like, dude, this is actually killing the movie a little bit for me. Like, this is, I would love for this to be just not in here, and you would have added a little bit more with Megan and Tommy Jarvis or something, established them a little bit more.
Yeah, they didn't have to all be completely over the top.
Right.
Well, they were
Yeah.
having a good time. They're all company executives, and whatever company they worked for is now fucked because all of the executives are dead.
It was a
That's
team
true.
building exercise. I would like to think that they got something of value out of that.
No,
Yeah.
the team was eliminated.
Mhm.
Not
You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. It's painful. These things happen.
Yeah, and then they even like, it didn't even make sense because they're like, we might win because this guy's still alive, and then they cut to the guy, but he's wearing the colors of the other team, so it
Maybe they
doesn't
didn't-
even add up.
Maybe they didn't know he was dead.
Maybe, I don't know. It just was really bad. Like, all of it was bad. The kills weren't worth it in terms of like getting those kills. They were fine.
I don't know.
And that-
Decapitating all three of them at the same time was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was fine. But it's just like, I don't need this in this movie. Like, that really takes away a lot of it for me. I mean, you already had your over the top character with the Gravedigger. He was, the crazy Ralph guy. He was like akin to Crazy Ralph from parts 1 and 2. So you already had that character. You didn't need this over the top, Three Stooges like character running through the woods.
Right.
It was just
I
like,
agree.
come on, dude. I don't want any more of this.
I don't want it either.
So I just had to get that little vent out of the way.
I liked Megan. I thought she was she was a fun character.
Great character, acted very well. Enjoyed her. Maybe we don't run into the water at the end. We'll talk about in a little bit when things are going on. Other than that, I enjoyed her. She was a great sort of final girl, even though like the quote unquote final girl is Tommy Jarvis in this trilogy. What did you guys think of this version? Because they've done 3 different versions of Tommy Jarvis from parts 4, 5, and 6.
I thought he was better than 4. I mean, better than 5. Hard to compare him to 4 because
Right.
he was a kid, right? So, yeah, I guess this one would be the best technically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Corey Feldman in part 4 as Tommy Jarvis. Again, like you said, he's a kid in that one. This one blows away part 5.
Yeah.
Like when I think of Tommy Jarvis, this is the movie that I think of with him because there's actually character depth there. There is a character. He's not just staring into space for the entire movie. You're getting something from the character. So I'm not excited that they never brought back Tommy Jarvis. I thought he should have come back in a later movie. There's been some fan movies with him in it, but they should have brought him back at some point in one of the later ones.
Maybe I think that if it was if he was cast using the same actor in all 3 movies somehow, that would have been different. But there isn't a Tommy Jarvis, right?
Right.
There's just 3 different versions of him, so I can kind of see why maybe they didn't bring him back.
That's fair. The other thing that I found interesting, this kind of goes with a point that Jesse was bringing up earlier. There's like, they're making it seem like Jason was a urban legend and that the killings didn't happen, but Megan is the same age as Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. Like, she would know about it. All these people would know about it. It happened recently enough. This wasn't 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Right.
So like that stuff doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't seem like they just moved there or anything either. It sounded like
doesn't
they're
seem
trying to
that
do it
way.
with everyone. So
It could have been though. So you figure what? How many sheriffs have died in the previous Friday the 13th movies? So he could have just been the new sheriff in town. They transferred him from another town. He's like, I don't believe this crazy story these town people have. But I mean, it would be too recent, right? There would be news articles. There would be things like that.
Word would get around. It would be too. It was. So that's a little bit of a problem. Your timeline issue, which is a huge problem in all Friday the 13th movies to begin with, is like there's just no. Again, they were writing these movies on napkins in a cafe every,
Well, I guess
6 months.
But more to that point, though, how many times has the entire sheriff's department just been eliminated? So maybe nobody does know. Like,
Spoiler alert, happened in this movie too, so they need a new one. Again.
No, wait. I think Deputy Rick survived. I think he's just still locked in that cell there.
Oh, there you go. Deputy Rick did survive, but I don't know.
But,
I don't remember if part
he
7
won't be back.
he won't be back because it's Friday the 13th. And we do not bring recurring characters back, at least the same actor.
No.
By any means. So, yeah, I think overall that is some of my negatives and positives. Was there any kills that stood out to you guys in this movie?
There were a couple of fun ones. Nothing crazy. Nothing like too crazy. But there were a lot of flat ones, I thought. I mean, the kill count was relatively high. I think this is the 5th highest kill count in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes like Freddy versus Jason and stuff like that. So the kill count was pretty high, but none of them really stand out so much, except for maybe the punching the heart out of the chest.
Yeah, that was a great one. A great one that they recreated in the video game as well, which is always a fun one to do. I thought the head twist off.
Yeah, the head twist off was good. Oh, when he snapped the sheriff in half backwards.
Oh,
was good.
Yeah. I've seen this movie so many times, and I still wasn't expecting that for some reason.
Yeah.
This time as I watched it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I would like to bring that up when we start talking about the ending of the movie.
Yeah. So that was a good one. You could tell that this was the one that they started coming down on them for the gore.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell that they were a little bit neutered and that they weren't going to get their movie out, and the whoever it is that rates the movies was making them cut stuff out. It really shows in the next movie.
Yeah.
Part 7 gets neutered completely, but you could tell it started with this one.
Right. Yeah, you could tell. One kill scene that I forgot about was the girl in the RV bathroom, which got her face slammed into the wall and imprinted on the other side.
That was pretty good
fun.
one.
That was a clever one to get around blood and gore.
Yeah.
And have it still be disturbing. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes that's more effective when you do
agreed
stuff like that where it's just so different. So
yeah, but they did cut away from a couple in this movie as well, which you have so many that it's okay, but you could tell that they were trying to tone it down just a tiny bit, at least with the final cut.
Yeah, I was bummed out when they did the one of the head squish kills was a cutaway kill. I was like, damn, I wanted to see that head pop.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's definitely something happening in this particular movie. Any more that stood out to you, Jesse, or
covered most of them?
Cool. All right. Do we want to talk about this ending?
Yes. One kill that I did like is when the two people were in the car and Jason was standing in the road and he was like, I want to scare him. She's like, you're going to scare him. And he pulls right up and they stop short and Jason obviously doesn't budge. And then the boyfriend stupidly gets out of the car and gets killed. And then the girlfriend gets out and she's like, oh, where is he? He's gone. And all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and takes the stake and just plunges it through her head. It's a cutaway kill. They don't show it. But when it pans back, it's just her laying on her back in the puddle and the stake is through her head, but her head is completely submerged under the puddle. I thought that was an effective way of getting away with a cutaway kill.
Yeah. I actually respect the creativity because most of these movies, when they have to do cutaway kills, they just cut away.
They just cut away.
Like, well, that sucks. Yeah, but this one, like, well, look what happened, but you can't really see it. It's kind of cool.
The only problem with that kill is they threw a gag in on that one, and I don't think anyone recent will get that gag. Anyone that's been born in the last 30 years. It was the AMX card, which was like basically, I think AMX was the "Don't Leave Home Without It" card for back in the day.
Yep.
And basically, it was showed it anywhere. So it was showed it. Basically, they're showing the AMX card at Crystal Lake in the puddle, like "Don't leave home without it." Yeah. So no one, that's 30 years old or younger is ever going to get that particular reference. I mean, I almost forgot it. It's been so long since they've done those. But yeah, that was a good kill as well. Different scene. Their setups were good in this one. Like when you were getting random characters, other than that one that we said, I thought they did a really good job of setting up those kills throughout the movie where they're just like the one-off kills better than they usually do. So I did appreciate that.
Especially where they were neutered by the studio there. And they had I feel like they were able to come out and get their kill scenes just as disturbing as they would have if they weren't cutaways.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about this ending because it's not bad, but there are I have questions.
There
I
was
have questions.
there were some issues.
There were some issues with his plot, right? The
Yes.
plan was dumb. It was insane, but the outcome was cool.
Kind of,
I-
yeah. Yes,
that-
yeah, it was fine. It was a different ending for a Friday the 13th movie. Okay, you can't bury him. All right, let's just put him under the water.
Mhm. You get that little Phasmophobia throwback there from that Easter egg in Phasmophobia.
Yep. Yeah, for people that don't know that, Phasmophobia ghost hunting game. But if you go to the lake in one of the maps, you can actually see Jason under the water. It's pretty cool. Go out on the dock. We like that.
We do like
Good
that.
game.
But
Fun
this
game.
is Tommy Jarvis. He's had 20 years or so to plot his revenge on Jason. 15, whatever. I don't know how old he
but
is.
in an asylum.
You could think. You're
There's-
allowed to think, Jesse.
Kinda. It's in an asylum. How many people have come up with good plans in asylums, Rob?
This is a guy who broke out of an asylum, and
He used his good plan on that.
no, he
You can't
broke out of
expect him
an
to have two good plans.
he's basically this guy. He's like, I'm out of the asylum. I got a plan. Hear me out. Tie a big old rock to a chain.
Tie a big old rock to a chain, bring it out on the boat, and hope he follows
Wait.
you.
Don't forget the fire.
And bring the
Don't
fire.
forget the ring of fire. We finally have a ring of fire.
Don't forget leaving 20 kids on the shore, and you're like the girl you started talking to.
Hey, me instead.
Yeah, and hoping that would work. Luckily
Okay,
for him,
so-
it did.
Issue number one.
Wait. To be fair, on that point where he was like, leave, he didn't know what to do with the girl. He didn't want her there in the first place. So that was not part of his plan. Also, I don't know if part of his plan would have involved a whole camp full of kids. His
Right,
plan
leaving
was
an
just-
adult to keep an eye on the kids while there's a killer on the loose isn't the worst plan.
Hmm.
Okay, let's start with some of the issues that I have. The rock, yes, it looked kind of heavy. Not as heavy as he was making it out to be. Also, if it was that heavy just to roll the rock over, do you remember watching him struggle with it? How is he going to lift it up and get it in the boat by himself?
Sure.
Also, that boat too small for that big of a rock if it's that heavy.
Probably.
Now, they did do a little bit of due diligence where they were showing that some water was getting in the boat. So he had a limited amount of time. The boat was actively sinking because of giant rock. Here's issue number
Also,
2.
because of two giant people, in addition to the giant rock.
Yes. Okay. Issue number 2. Now, there could have been a lot of issues in between with this plan. I don't really get the gasoline and fire thing. Whatever. You want to burn him a little bit? Sure. Was there another reason for the fire? Because it really didn't do much.
I guess it lured him to the top.
It added some really cool lighting for the scene.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. So, okay, you got to get this chain around this guy. Okay, my issue here, and to take it back to when Jason snapped the sheriff in half with his bare hands, he's twisting people's heads off with his bare hands. He's not just going to be able to lift up that rock and just walk out of the pond. That's going to keep him down. Okay, so we'll put that aside. The biggest and most glaring issue with this entire scene was when the girl goes out there and she's trying to save the day. She thinks on her toes and she starts up the boat and she's like, okay, I thought this was, I can get away if I zoom away with
That's
the
what I
boat.
thought too.
But no, Jason is what? Presumably 12 feet deep in this lake.
No, because if you can grab her ankle.
He's reaching up. Well, he's about what, 6 feet tall, at least, maybe 6.5. Like the character of Jason Voorhees is a tall character, plus his arm length. So he's reaching up and he's grabbing her ankle. She's maybe 5-6 feet tall. But I don't think she's 6 feet tall, but she's probably like 5.5 feet. Right. So he's pretty far down there.
Okay, but he's also pretty far up. If she's 5 feet tall and her head's above water, and head and shoulders are above water, that means she's probably 3.5-4 feet underwater, which means he's 3.5-4 feet of an arm's reach from the surface.
Okay. All right. So you add all those up. You add her 5 feet because he has to reach up to get her ankle. So let's.
I know
add
where you're
another
going with
3
this,
feet to
yeah.
that. Okay. Anyways, she cranks the propeller, and how deep is this propeller? So was it 13 feet deep in the
No.
water?
3, maybe 5 feet deep, right?
Either way, no, it's not.
No, it's not. Yeah,
Right.
fair.
And this thing is hitting him in the face, in the neck, even further down. Anyways, if anyone has ever looked at a boat with its propeller in the water, it is not that far down. So I think it's even further down because you get the 5 feet of her. He has to reach up to get her angle. That's another 3 feet. So I think plus another 6 inches down, or so to get to his neck. No, this thing would have had to be at least 8 to 9 feet underwater. That's just not how deep this thing
Also,
would have
you
been.
run the
There's
risk of
way
chopping
more
your own
math
foot off.
than I thought. Way more math than I thought was going to be in this review.
I had to break it down a lot further than I meant to there. I was just going to say he's much deeper than Papiller would have been. But yeah, that
could've
thing's
just
never
said
hit him
that.
in the neck. Yeah. Could have done that.
Also, like I said, you run the risk. She ran the risk of chopping her own legs off.
Right. Well, if you look at where she was in front of the motor, which obviously if your legs are flailing around and he's holding on to one of
No,
them.
but if she's here and he's directly below her and you're chopping his face, you're very close to your feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A risk willing to take if you're going to die, I guess. But
I suppose.
At the same time, it also would have been really goofy if she did just crank the engine on and just zoomed away. Aesthetically, that would have been really goofy to look at. But yeah, there was a lot of things that didn't work here. Number one would have been like Jason has superhuman strength. He can twist your head off and fold a human grown man in half, but he can't lift up the little rock that's holding him down.
Maybe the water is his kryptonite. That's where he
should be.
drowned.
But he thrives in the water.
Yeah.
Does
This
he
is
thrive in the water though?
Yeah,
He walks through it.
depends on the
Don't go in the
movie.
water. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So that's the problem.
He always goes in the water.
Right.
Not
'cause
always.
He thrives in the water.
No,
he mostly thrives in the water. It should be his kryptonite. That was like the whole thing. He drowned as a kid. He should be. That's the one weakness he should have. But the majority of the movies make him so that he's like
He's faster in the water, right?
he's a human submarine, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets kind of silly in that respect. It should be something that he fares. Like if I were to like reset the Jason universe, I would make it so that he is forced to stay around the lake, but be terrified of the lake. That would be the lore that I would build with Jason personally.
But yeah, I think that's it for my issues on the end of the movie. I thought it was fine.
What were you going to say about the father being folded in half? I thought you said you had a point about that.
I was just saying if he had the strength to fold a grown man in half, he should have the strength to pick up like a medium size. That wasn't that big of a rock. It wasn't a bird landing rock. That was just a regular rock.
Yeah, true.
So,
It looked like Plymouth Rock, to be honest.
it was smaller than Plymouth Rock, which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is the ending of the movie. Overall, I want to give some scores here.
I have this at a 4.2.
Damn,
I thought it was.
I also had it a 4.2. I'll move it up to a 4.3. I really did enjoy it.
All right. Well, I'm going to give it a solid 4 machetes. Actually, 4.3 machetes.
Can we change that? Can we
5.
change that to medium-sized rocks instead of machetes?
I'm just doing stars. Sorry.
Wow.
But you can rate it however many machetes or small size rocks you want.
Little machete sticking into a rock. Be hard to do, but with Jason's
sword.
superhuman strength, you can get that machete in there.
I'm gonna give it a 4.3 because it is one of my favorites. It does sort of rotate in and out of spot number 1.
Now we have the same score. Now I got to change mine again. It keeps going higher. Now I'm a 4.4.
You can have the same score.
It's my favorite.
If we just keep going, it makes my job a little easier.
It's going to be my favorite movie of all time by the end of this if we keep this going.
Yeah. So, and just in terms of a Friday the 13th movie, I think this is one of the better ones. So I'm happy we got to watch it.
Yeah.
Which is weird because we're gonna, I'm gonna say this now because I don't think we have another Friday the 13th for 6 or 7 months. But we're getting into the best depiction of Jason coming up for the next couple movies. But they're like the worst movies. So it's like a really weird thing where you're getting the best Jason, but the worst movies.
All right. Well, I think that'll pretty much do it, folks.
That's going to do it for this horror movie review. Let us know what your scores are for this one in the comments. We will catch you next time here at Hometown Ghost Stories Reviews, HTGS Reviews. We'll catch you later. Peace.